official podcast. Oh my gosh, it has been a minute. We took a little bit of a break, but we are back. We are back and we are excited to talk to you. We've got some fun stuff to talk about. But before we get to any of that, I've got to introduce my co-host. These two are crazy and they know it. Number one crazy is Hilton George. Hilton George, welcome to the asylum. That we know.
That's right. Your brother done got some PTO. I think we can come back to the show. Do what we love. We've been look, y'all don't understand. We've been in these streets with a K, the streets.
Oh,
we done
man.
been in Atlanta. They was in Texas. I'm in Minneapolis. I mean, we've been all over the place. So here we are back home. Look at me. I got air conditioning. I got comfortable seats, got my coffee and my homegirls right here. So I'm happy. I'm relaxed. I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yes, we're excited you're here. Christi Renee, how are you? Looking like a member of the Black Panther Party.
Oh, yes.
I'm loving it. You could have been dancing with Beyonce at the Super Bowl. I'm telling you.
In my mind, I always am.
Yes, right.
I love that I get to follow every week now the Pluralizer, because that is his new name. I just want to remind everybody how Christi is in that pluralization game. I'm happy that we got a chance to be in person together over the last month. So that was good. Yes, we all got to share the same space. So much fun. I'm happy.
Oh, it was so much fun. Yes, I know. We had so much fun. You guys don't know. We were in Atlanta at MomoCon. It was amazing. This was the first time that Christi had ever met Hilton, that they had met, that y'all had seen Dana. I mean, it was like we were in the same space for the first time. It was amazing. It was so much fun. And I love the fact that we almost were like, it was just like family. Like it was almost like we had never left. We had known each other for 1,000 years, and it's just really cool. And we had such a fun session at MomoCon. We had a panel that we did, and I would say about 40 people, 50 people showed up.
That's about right. Mm-hmm.
And it was just so interactive. It was so much fun. I know we recruited a lot of new listeners, and we just talked about BLERDs. We talked about Comic-Con. We talked about anime. We talked about everything. It was just a beautiful, I don't know, it was just a beautiful moment. And I really was excited to do that with you guys. So thank you.
Yeah. It was
I
fun.
know.
It was fun hanging with everybody because, the con scene is where I think I and Karen are more native. And the question was going to be like, how is Christi gonna resonate with all these people and all this noise and all this stuff? And, it's like there was a long walk and it was about 50,000 people. You was like a fish in water. I was like,
I was a kid in there. I was a kid in a candy store. I'm like filming and taking pictures of everybody that walks by, and Karen is ignoring me because she's like,
this is like my 1,000th con, and it was like her first. So you guys know the difference in the experience. Everything was new to you, and it was cool to see that because it was like looking at a con for the first time again. Like you reminded me about how I felt when I first came to Comic-Con and saw cosplayers and half the stuff I didn't know what was what, but I thought it was so cool. And it was just this, the con world is just this really cool world of where a bunch of nerds meet, and it's just glorious,
It is. All the people it was just so much fun to even be received with all my excitement. And I know that there's, some people who don't like a lot of people. But even with my excitement for everybody's creative genius that they brought that whole weekend. And I was the same excited when you were in Dallas, like for us to be a fan expo. I was like the same excited all over again. I think I'll just always be that way. But as a creative, like that's a thing for me. Like, I just love it. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Like, I don't know any other place where the weirder you are, the cooler you are. Like, it's literally like the person with the craziest costume just get so much love. But if you did that walking down the street on a Tuesday, people would be like, well, what is wrong with you? Like, it's just so weird how it's just a different world. And when you walk in there, it's really a safe place for a lot of, introverted people, extroverted people, or people who are introverted that always wanted an opportunity to be extroverted, and just they kind of become somebody else, which is very cool. And I embrace any opportunity for people to be their authentic self, and I think that is a place where people can do that. So
and let me say, the fans, y'all really showed up and showed out. And I gotta tell you this because Karen probably doesn't see much of this because of who she is. But I'll tell you right now, a con panel can fail miserably. And I have seen it happen. I've seen people who just knew that they were going to pack a room because of whatever they were talking about or who they thought they had on the panel. And it would be them, the moderator, and the sound guy in the back messing around with his phone or whatever for an hour. And when you got like 50,000 people, you don't really know what's going to happen. And, I got to tell you, the fans really came out. Fans of the show were out there throughout the show. It was always interesting to watch because we would kind of get together and be talking and hanging out with people. And it'd be like that one person out of 5 that's like a Karan Ashley super fan that would like walk up and then their jaw would just be hanging on their chest. And everybody else just kicking it, and there would just be this person over here kind of going, oh. And Karen was always so nice. And she like, hey, how you doing, honey? How you, go by.
Try to break the ice. I'm like,
trying to break the ice and get their blood flowing back to their brain and everything. Right. So it was really, really cool watching Karen work. Christi was, y'all don't understand. What you see in the box here is like about not even a quarter of the story. She was out here dancing. She was dropping it and bringing it back up. That's important.
Yeah, them knees still work.
Man, singing.
Them knees go.
She was a firecracker out there in that con. She was not playing. I was like, okay, we've created a monster.
Yes.
You're going to be at every con.
I'm bugging her all the time. Like, when's the next one? I'm ready to go.
When's the next one? Yes. Well, we're literally planning. We're going to plan it. I know, like, we had big plans for this year in order to do more shows of all 3 of us be together. And we're going to still continue to try to make that happen, but it's one of those things where I loved the part that I loved the most was when we got to sneak away from the con and go and have some barbecue. And,
what?
Dana, like we made sure everybody made it because I was like, okay, if nobody else can make it, let's at least try to have one dinner together away from the show and just talk and have fun. And it was great. And Dana was there and all of our friends were there and we got to all sit and just break bread. So that's nice.
Yes. I love it.
So we will announce the next time that we are at a con. We are definitely working on that. As you know, Hilton's Comic-Con is coming up. BLERD Con is in July. It's in a few weeks. Hilton, give them the dates, give them the details, because if you have not got your ticket to BLERD Con, I don't know what you're doing with your life. I unfortunately am booked at another show, but I want to be there so bad, so I will be there in spirit.
Listen, you already
I will be there next year. Like I'm not.
You're already a double alumnus. So you got your card. You good. Your card is stamped. You're gonna get the free icy at the end of this. You good.
Yes.
But July 8th through 10th, that is this not coming weekend, but the weekend after at the Hyatt Crystal City. That's right there in Arlington, Virginia, right next door to Reagan National Airport for anybody flying in.
Yeah.
It's 3 days, 24 hours of programming. We got the indoor convention. We've got the outdoor food truck rally with the live stage. You ever been to an Afropunk, or have you ever seen one of those big outdoor stages? We got one of the big LED backlights. There's going to be stage shows, rappers, singers. It's going to be really dope. And then obviously, we've got Orlando Jones headlining the guest list. We've got some amazing screenings in the anime screening room. The 24-hour arcade. We got the barbershop. Again, we're taking the Black experience and superimposing it over the nerd space. It's going to be dope. My girl Dana's going to be there. She already hit me up. She's like, let me get my... Our engineer is going to be there taking pictures and doing her thing. She's been there before. And it's a really great opportunity for the Black nerds to come out and really, really strut their stuff. And we're looking forward to a really great turnout. We're doing some really exciting things. We brought in Disney as one of our sponsors this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, that look,
I
we're
got
gonna
that
be doing
email
some
alert
stuff.
this morning, and I'm so proud of you guys. No, seriously, all things aside, I am so proud of the show that you put on. I am so proud of what you have created, and I'm literally there in spirit. I wish you nothing but the best. I'm coming next year, whether you want me there or not. Christy will be with me. We are making an appearance next year, but until then, just have the best weekend ever. I know as a promoter, it's hard to do that because literally you're putting on the show, and people don't realize when you're putting on a show, you're putting out the fires, you're doing all the things. You literally, if something goes wrong, you're the person, you and your partners are the person that have to fix it, so it's just one of those things. But I know the show's going to be amazing, and I know you're going to I hope you have the best time ever. The greatest
be
year
great.
yet. Yes.
We'll keep an eye out for us. It's 2022, and then 2023. We'll see the whole show here. We'll do a show at BLERDCon. We'll figure it out.
Oh yes, I know. Chris is going to be trying to steal the mic on that live stage outside, and so I'm gonna. You just build your security up because
What I haven't even put out to the world is my whole entrance into our when we were doing our show, our panel. I've had people cracking up over that just personally because they're like, seriously, you went? Yes. I was like, they weren't even paying attention to me. I just went behind the curtain like, I'm gonna make an entrance because it was my first time.
Strange.
Yes.
Every
We
time.
like that about you. We like that. That's the part that I love the most. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it was so much fun. And like I said, the best show yet for BLERDCon. If you have not got your tickets, I don't know what you're waiting for. I don't know what you're doing with your life. It is an amazing show. So with that being said, we're going to talk about Obi Wan Kenobi.
Oh my God.
Oh, guys, I'm one of those, I'll be honest with you. I'm one of those, like, I like, certain things about Star Wars. I don't consider myself a diehard because I don't just, I don't love everything about it, but when I do love it, I find that I really love it. And I really loved Obi-Wan. I loved it for many, many reasons. And so if you have not watched that show, you're going to have to just check out right now because we are going to take a deep dive. We are going to go in and discuss it in detail, discuss the things we like, discuss the things we didn't get. And of course, Hilton will probably be the ultimate, the encyclopedia of the show. So if we have any tough questions, I know he will break in and help us figure it out. Okay, so just overall, what were your thoughts about Obi-Wan? Hilton, I'll let you go.
You should let me go first, honestly.
Christy, you want to take it? Go ahead.
Christy's going to skip you because she knows that there's going to be this really long soliloquy coming out of Hilton, which I want.
And me, I'm going to be this much. I got this much.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. She thought it was beautiful.
Listen, I love Reva. I'm rocking with Reva. Am I saying it right?
Yeah, you said it right.
Her character, yeah.
See, I want to get her name right. Yes, I love, and of course, I love seeing. Good Lord, what's his name? It just escapes my mind. I'm really just a fan of everybody, and then there's all these hidden nuggets and all the things that connect all the 100 years of Star Wars. All together. So those things are fun. I love to pick that apart. But overall, it's beautiful. I have to do a lot of research. I have to take my time. It kind of blew my mind because I was like, I have no idea where I am. Like I know Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker. And after that, I had to realize that this is way back in history. Like that's little Princess Leia.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I'm so lost right now. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents. But it is beautiful.
I was very happy with the way that they did tie in the past with the present, because one thing I will say is that even if you hadn't watched, the 6 other movies or, it was really good at kind of throwing back to, everybody knows Princess Leia, like you said, everyone knows Obi Wan Kenobi, everyone knows Luke Skywalker, everyone knows Darth Vader, these certain characters. And I really felt this story was important because we never, I don't know. I mean, those first 3 movies when it premiered in the 70s, I mean, it blew us away, and it was just this amazing story. And then they went back in like the 90s and to do those prequels, right? And those just didn't land very well. Like like there were things you loved about them, and then there were things that you were like, what? Like it was just one of those things where they just didn't, they didn't take off. And then of course recently we've had the new movies that basically have, it's basically like they basically passed the baton to the newer cast members and the people who will carry on the Star Wars franchise. But what I love, because those 3 movies in the middle, that we didn't just love completely, I felt Obi-Wan did a great job of really helping us understand, really help build that backstory between Anakin and Obi-Wan, really build, explain, Princess Leia and her spirit and just all the things that went into what we know now. So I'm going to let you take it over, Hilton, because I know you've got an opinion and I can't wait to hear it.
Well, the thing I loved about this is that they took their time to tell what really wasn't a story people were sitting around waiting for. Like, this gap between, Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, is ambiguous at best. We know that, at some point, Obi-Wan ends up in the desert, hiding from the Empire, hiding his Jedi-ness and everything, but we don't really know what he was doing during that time. We don't know what really literally drove him out there, et cetera, et cetera. We don't know what are the formative relationships between Luke and Obi-Wan, because they knew each other, but he didn't really know the nature of the history between them until, we actually saw the first trilogy, not the original trilogy. So telling the story, it's a holy story in a lot of ways, because, this is Obi-Wan. He's like a pivotal character, and it's not orbiting around Luke like you saw some of the Mandalorian do, right?
Yes.
So it was very, very well told. I think you got a lot of the saber fights, a lot of the force work that people really, really love. The modern audience is not as wowed by a laser sword as, the audience in 1977. So, just doing what they were doing, in those first, couple of saber battles, it was great. But what we got here, especially in this finale, was like, okay, that was like God tier Jedi versus Sith, and they really, really worked out their issues, so you really got to understand the nature of the relationship and why Obi-Wan is such a powerful character, even over Darth Vader, as he was as Anakin. We really don't know that they kind of had this really falling out and this revenge and this hatred. And it did a really great job of that. Now, I gotta say, Moses, who plays Reva, did an amazing job. She really, really, really brought like this fire to the character. And like I said, Disney is doing such a great job of doing the slow boil. That first 3 episodes was kind of, we're moving through, we're seeing all these characters, we're getting introduced to new worlds, we're setting things up. And, she's on 10, like the whole series. We're not really sure why she's on 10, what she's on 10 about. And I think that might have lost some audience people because we didn't get to see her get to 10. But once we found out why she was on 10 and what she was on 10 about, and we got to see her do her on 10-ness with, Darth Vader, then we were like, oh, okay, now we get it. Like, because it's really, really deep. And I got to tell you, Christi, there is no shame. This, I'm going to tell you right now, there is no deeper fandom except for maybe certain anime to Star Wars. They have got so much content out there between, Rebels, and there's books, there's animated television shows, and obviously there's 13 movies, so the average person is kind of like, okay, all these Easter eggs aren't adding up, but I can tell that meant something right there. And, but they still do a good job of making it so that even people who are just getting introduced to these characters are having a good time and enjoying it. So it's worth the watch. It really is. And I really love all the performances, all the special effects. Kudos again to Disney Plus for doing what they do so well.
Yeah, and you know what? It is worth. Before you get in, it is worth the watch. And what I will say is that this is coming from a person who is not a diehard fan of Star Wars. Like, I loved The Mandalorian. I loved that first, the first newer movie that came out and maybe the last one. But it's been like a roller coaster for me. I love it. I don't like it. I love it. I don't like it. I love it. I don't get it. Like, it's just, and even like Boba Fett, I was like, oh my gosh, information. I can't even, like, it just wasn't, like, I'm really one of those people who wants to be entertained, but also wants a really good story. And I want certain things explained. If you're going to go there, let's really explain it to me. And I thought that this series did an excellent job. Like, it really did an excellent job of really helping me understand Anakin and who is Darth Vader, like, his anger. And then even Obi-Wan, his disappointment, because Obi-Wan was his master, was the one who taught him everything he knew, even when he knew, like, from the very beginning, when Anakin was a kid, that this kid couldn't handle certain things, and they were like, he really shouldn't be taught the ways of a Jedi, but they did anyway, because of what was the character, the one that died, who made Obi-Wan promise that he was going to teach Anakin.
Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yes, exactly. And so I don't know. It's for someone who's not a diehard. I encourage you to watch it, Chris, and I encourage you to get into it.
Yeah, because it does its job as a self-contained series too.
It does.
I mean, if God forbid this is the first thing you've ever seen, you don't have to do extensive research to enjoy it. But yes, if you want to unpack all the Easter eggs, it helps to have seen at least the other movies. But I can tell you, you have to be a diehard fan to really get into some of the animated series, and obviously because when I say there's a lot, if you go on Disney Plus, it's all there. It's like, I got homework. It's either this or I get a second master's.
Right.
I don't know what I would do.
Let me get my thesis, because I could write a thesis after all this research.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I was in school. It was tough, but I am watching. I'm chipping away at it. But let me say this: I am big enough a fan. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
To have this.
Wow. Wow. And the battery is in charge. Boo. 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 What are you doing?
The
Force is not with you. The Force is not with you, Christi.
That belongs to her son, Christian. So she
Christian, you're fired.
Her son, that's her son, because her son, he went to Dallas Fan Expo and was like, he did one lap of the show and came back and was like, I want this lightsaber.
Listen,
and he figured it out in 3 days.
Listen, but I want one I play with his almost as much as he does his own, and he bursts in the room. He's always in the dark, and I'm like, you're 19. Oh my God, you're hysterical. But listen, I love it. I was like, I want one of these for myself. They're so much fun. It talks. It does all the colors. You have the sound effects. These things are so cool. So I am a fan enough to know.
Spoiled. I'm telling you, I would have killed one of those things when I was 8. I was running around with sticks and broom handles trying to play Jedi in the streets.
And listen, they got them, and they're like, and they have massive ones. They have some that are like 20 feet long. But anyway, I do enjoy. I know Star Wars enough to know what a lightsaber is, and I want one. And because of all the films that they produce and the shows, series, or whatever, like, I want to be part of the gang that has the lightsaber gang. So I'm down for it. I love it. We're
gonna let that charge, let the Force get into it, and then maybe we'll get some demonstration.
I'm gonna do a whole show. But I'll carry us out. I'll take us out with a lightsaber performance.
She'll close it out. So as you know, Obi Wan Kenobi is played by Ewan McGregor. And I was so happy to see him come back into the fold. And I loved what he did. Like, he was one of the characters that I really liked. And I did like Hayden Christensen. But Revenge of the Sith, there was just things that just kind of complicated that movie. I think, there were characters that complicated it. But what I loved is one of the big scenes is Reva, who was played by Moses Ingram, who is literally one of my favorite actresses. She won our hearts with Queen's Gambit a couple years ago. And she, when she was on Queen's Gambit, just her acting, just her intention, just the little things she does. I mean, I am just so happy to see her get these kind of roles now where she's playing, in a series this big. But what happens is, just to kind of set the story for some of you, she kidnaps Princess Leia. And she does that in order to draw Obi-Wan out, and she knows that if she kidnaps this kid, who is the daughter of one of the I guess government officials or whatever, that she knows Obi-Wan will show up, and she knows that he will go to Obi-Wan and ask him, and they basically allude that she's been obsessed with him for 10 years. She's been trying to find him, and that has gotten in the way of her relationship, and they refer to her as the third sister, and that's gotten in the way of her, I guess her relationship with the other people who work for Darth Vader. So long story short, she kidnaps the cutest little actress who plays Princess Leia. They did some really good casting. Like, that little girl won my heart over. Her name is Vivian Blair. And sure enough, Obi-Wan shows up. But there's this one scene where she basically corners them, and they are trying to get onto this freight, like loading dock freighter kind of thing, to escape this one planet. And she's so sinister, and she's like hunting Obi-Wan, and she starts telling him about how, Anakin survived. And that scene for me, Hilton, was like, because Ewan McGregor, like, because the last time he saw Anakin was burning in the lava, and he was, he thought he was dead. He thought, and he surely did not think that Anakin was saved and Anakin had become Darth Vader.
Right.
That was the best scene. Like, she was so sinister, and his reaction was so magical, and it just really, it really unfolded the whole, relationship between, Obi-Wan and Anakin, and just the guilt he felt for him going to the dark side. What were your thoughts on that scene?
This is reminiscent of the scene in Return of the Jedi, or excuse me, Empire Strikes Back, where we find out that, Luke, finds out that Darth Vader is his father.
Yes.
That kind of a reveal. Yeah. It's like, you're in this mode where you forget, all the stuff going on in the storyline. Very, very complicated, long arc story that's been developed in 76. So it's very, very layered. Right?
Years and years developing the story.
We forget that, freaking Obi-Wan didn't know that Anakin Skywalker was Darth Vader. Like, there's no way he would have known that at that moment. And for him to find out, like, in that scene, in that way, from that person, especially the way she broke the news, she's being real petty with it, right? Just to let him know, like, dude that's been out here, like, killing millions of people and all this stuff for the last, 10 years. Yeah, that's your boy. You didn't know he was dead, and he's coming for you. Oops. And now he's got to, like, he's got the guilt, he's got the fear. He hasn't been practicing his Jedi craft, so he could barely, use the saber and use the Force. And he is just like, done. Like, he's done. Like, he feels like he's not the guy. At that moment, he is not the guy, and all he can do is run. And we're all like, oh my God. Like, what would you do if you found out, like, your homie was actually like Adolf Hitler of the intergalactic war, and you helped create him, and that's your failure while somebody's trying to kill you. Like, very deep moment, very deep, good acting, because you can just read all the emotion on his face. He didn't have any lines. You're just watching his face as she's telling him, and it's like, man. So that was a very powerful scene. Very powerful.
Yeah. It like you said, it was one of those things where it was like the ultimate revelation. Like, it was, because I mean, you thought, he thought he was like going to the dark side. He had turned bad. He fought him. He thought he killed him, and he felt guilt over that. He felt guilt that he had to kill Anakin. But then that realization of finding out that not only did Anakin live, but Anakin is the reason that people are suffering and dying, and they've taken over. Like, I mean, it's very, Timely. It's very timely to see the government, going into different planets and telling them how to live and telling them what to do and controlling them and had fed them lies because a lot of people had joined the empire, joined that, had joined them because they were told, oh, they're going to come and they're going to clean things up, they're going to make things better. And it's so timely on what is going on now. And then they find out that their leader is a complete and utter liar. He's a murderer. He will kill women, he will kill men, and he will kill kids, and without hesitation. So then the other thing that I thought that was really cool, because obviously we think Reva is just bad. We think she's just torturing Leia. We think that, but you don't understand what her motivation is. But I did love the twist that, she was actually one of the children that Anakin had showed up and he had killed all of these kids and he had done all these bad things. She was one of the children that had survived an attack. And she wasn't going for Obi-Wan, but she actually was using Obi-Wan. She was drawing Obi-Wan out in order to draw Darth Vader out so that he would show up and she could do her thing. But yeah, it was crazy because like people, you instantly, she was so good at her part. You didn't like her, but she was one of those you love to hate her because she was doing such a good performance. What was your thought about that twist? Because I kind of was like, I thought it was interesting.
Well, I got to tell you, the Order 66, as it's called,
Yes.
which came down from the Empire to kill all the Jedi, all the Republic, leadership. That is, every time I see something that goes into that scene or some depiction of what happened,
Right.
it always gut wrenching to me. It's like, oh my God, it's just horrifying to see these kids getting cut down and, this turn on a dime from Anakin to not just not being happy that he didn't become a master and not being happy that he lost his wife and, maybe lose kids, but to then immediately go and start killing the young Padawans. I mean, that is ridiculous.
Crazy.
And so it's very painful to see in general, but to find out she's a product of that. And she thought that, Obi-Wan was going to come and save her. Like the Padawans didn't know that Anakin had turned. So Anakin comes in with the stormtroopers. These are people that had taught them and protected them their whole lives. Remember, the stormtroopers were all part of the program at one point. And they're all of a sudden everything's falling down around them. Here comes someone that they trust, someone that has been teaching them, someone who's been someone they're big fans of, and he just starts cutting down people,
killing them, murdering them.
Yeah, murdering them. And then she blames Obi-Wan, one, for, hey, you trained this guy knowing what he could do. Two, you didn't come to save us. Right. We were there all by ourselves, dying and everything like that. And three, I was forced to take on the dark side just so that I could survive and make it this far. And you're sniffing out my plan, messing up my plan, thinking you're helping. And you're not helping. I need to get close enough to Darth Vader to cut him down. And you up here, talking and being all crazy and loose lip with it. So she's not really trying to pair one because I hate you almost as much as I hate Darth Vader.
Yeah.
So, I'm just as happy to get both y'all killed because that's part of my agenda.
Right.
But man, to see that she was part of that, and there was some people that guessed that. I heard a lot of chatter like, oh, she must have been part of the Padawan group of Order 66, and then boom, you see it. And it's an arc. It's a complete arc happens for her as a character. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people who were talking about her acting because they didn't understand why she was always on 10. And, she was like, maybe she was being a little too much. Everybody's attention being a little too much. Well, she's also trying to, run this plan, and she's trying to kill 2 Force users at the same time, and she's got this background. This is really like right on note for her, and her character comes full circle. And a lot of people who didn't like, what her character was doing, boom, it was great.
Yeah. So one of the things that just always gets me about the Star Wars fandom and just about the franchise itself is that racism always seems to rear its ugly head. And and it's like,
even in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. And it's like, I always am so perplexed because here's a world of aliens, of animals that you've never heard of, things that don't speak English, droids that are treated as humans, but they always seem to have a problem when a Black actor has a pivotal role in one of the storylines. And as you've read, Moses got hit with terrible attacks, terrible racist attacks, so much so that Disney actually put out a statement saying we stand with her. And a lot of the other actors, basically voiced their disdain with the fandom. I've seen this kind of stuff happen in the Power Ranger fandom, so it's not something that I think is unique to Star Wars, but I think we're in a time, and this, show, and we're just in a time where people are, the racist people aren't afraid to be racist. We had a president who was, and now we are in a time and place where people will say things on the internet. They will do things that are deplorable. I know your reaction, because you guys were as disgusted as you guys are. Like, we're always disgusted, but it just hurt me that someone so great and someone so talented had to be the brunt of just hatred. There's no other word. There's no other way, to sugarcoat it. What were your thoughts?
I'm going to chime in and say, first of all, you're absolutely right. And many people have said this over the years that, regular America accepts the most outlandish, creatively fantastical, otherworldly concepts, characters, ideas, things, whatever, before they allow Black people in a space that, whether in the beginning it was meant for everybody, over the course of time is now meant for everybody.
Right.
It is the craziest thing, but again, that's what that crazy is. It's exactly what it looks like. An author, a writer for NPR earlier this month did an article, a write-up on,
I think I read this one.
and really kind of handing it to Disney, to the company, the parent company, anybody involved with the film in the back office, sense that, kind of, like I said, giving it to them that they're not forecasting this. They're not going ahead of everybody, announcing and denouncing what they know is to come, because they're doing something that, yes, it may be different, but it's long overdue.
Right.
So, in my era, we had Billy D. Williams in Star Wars. So get over it, people. This has been around for a long time. That was in the whatever year that was, whatever decade, but it was a long time ago. Yeah, thank you.
Early 70s, yeah.
Oh, Billy D. Yeah. So this is not new, but hate prevails always. It's long standing. It's been here. It's going to be here forever for whatever reasons. But I thought that this writer had a really good point in saying, get out in front of it before these actors, these creators have to deal with it personally. Like, because apparently in the timeline of this, she but was compelled to do something on Instagram, a live video. And I love the way she's handling it. But again, we not always everybody's version of strength and whatever shouldn't apply to everybody. I don't know if I'm making sense, but we can't automatically assume that she's a Black woman, she's so strong and it's okay and she's going to weather. Well,
right.
When is somebody going to advocate for her before she has to be strong? I loved how she ended it, though. She was just like, well, I'm here and y'all just weird. And she was like, and I'm not. I mean, it hurt her. She showed her vulnerability and how sensitive she is to that. But ultimately, on a high note, was like, I got to check. Damn y'all. Damn what y'all talking about. I'm here.
Right.
I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So y'all just weird.
Yeah. It's sad. Go ahead, Hilton.
America is represented in every fandom. With problems that happen in America as the population always are mirrored by any subgroup, and this goes with fandoms, there's clubs, there's organizations. Because the fans come from the America that we all know and experience, this is always going to be a part of it. I think one of the differences between when Billy D came through as Lando Calrissian, there was no Twitter and there was no TikTok and there was no
Right.
4chan and there was no secret anonymous way that people could express their racism without
Right.
putting themselves in a position to get punched in the nose.
Right.
And that always curtails people, showcasing their true feelings and their true nature. The threat of getting punched in the nose. You don't have to punch somebody in the nose to change their behavior. You take them from behind the keyboard warrior opportunity, and then you kind of see what happens. So Billy D didn't have to run into a lot of this because there was really no way for this to spread. But because of the nature of social media, Moses did. And I agree wholeheartedly that, the studio should anticipate this and should take measures to respond to it, prevent it, and, kind of try to purge these individuals from the fandom. But they're never going to go anywhere. I mean,
No.
because they're not in the studio, they're not at the cons, at least not vocally. And
Right.
the people who come out, and support are the ones that make themselves available. They're on their actual profiles with their names and addresses
And their pictures.
saying, and their pictures saying we support you and all this sort of stuff. But it,
Yeah.
it comes back to the root of what representation is supposed to do in the first place. We aren't supposed to make it to the future. We're not supposed to be in sci-fi. We're not supposed to survive as a race, as a part of the world population, to a
Oh,
point where we make it into the space age, futuristic, even though this is set in a galaxy far, far away. These futurists. That's why Afrofuturism is such a thing, because we weren't included. And you have all of these sci-fi stories out there. We talk about The Man Who Fell to Earth, and we talk about some of these new horror movies and space operas out here that have black characters where there weren't black characters 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It's because we weren't supposed to be there. America
right.
and the creative arts felt like at some point we're going to shed all these black people, and white folks is going to go to a place where there
Like,
are no
the
black
sad
folks,
part
and
is
we're going to show
people
you
don't
in
know.
sci-fi, you
Right.
know, what that world looks like. And you've
Oh,
raised an entire generation of sci-fi fans to believe that that's what the future is supposed to look like. And
yeah.
so here comes Moses, playing Riva, this pivotal character. She's powerful, she's loud, she's angry, she's everything that America hates
She's
or thinks they
powerful.
hate about
Yeah.
black women.
Hmm.
And then the whole fandom, is subject to this triggering effect of all of the troglodytes in its midst being activated because of what she represents. And so, yeah, I agree with Christy. It's never going to go away. We just have to find ways to marginalize it. And if you're a white person who's listening to this, and people who are in certain fandoms who like to speak a certain way when we're not around, the place where you can make the difference is when you are a white person in white spaces checking other white people to let them know what's not cool and what's not acceptable and challenge them on those positions. And that's why
Right.
it's important that we all share the space and why we communicate and why we talk, because our advocates who are from other racial groups need to go back to their, communities and be able to articulate, hey, listen, you think you mad at this black woman because, oh, her suit isn't canon, or, oh, she's, retconned into that position, or, oh, like, nah, really, at the core, you mad because she's black and you just making up
Right.
reasons to say that she can't act or that her character's not well fleshed out, or blah, 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 blah. And that's what we
Yeah.
have to do. We have to cultivate that wall so that we can see more of this, because she was great. If without
Yeah.
her, there wouldn't have been a series and it wouldn't
Right.
have been as good. So thank
Yeah.
you for braving the storm.
And you know what? I will give it up to Disney and to the creators at Star Wars and Lucasfilms that are doing these, because they've always, like, I mean, you had, obviously you had Moses in there. You had what's his name? You had the fifth brother. He's an Asian actor, Sung Kang. You had Tala, who was she played Indira. She's I forget what her nationality is, but she's, you know, obviously a woman of color. You had O'Shea Jackson, who had a pivotal role. You know, I
Jimmy
mean, there's
Smith.
just Kamal, yeah, Jimmy Smith. I mean, it's like they have always had a very diverse cast, and people who, you know, and think about Darth Vader. I mean, James Earl Jones is the
Hello.
iconic voice of a character that's like scared us since the 70s, like the man we love to hate, you know, Darth Vader. He's literally one of the most iconic villains in the
Iconic.
history of villains, and
Forever,
it's
ever.
James Earl Jones. And I love the
Yeah.
fact that he is still voicing that character even in Obi Wan. You know, they haven't, you know, replaced him.
That's so
So that, I
amazing.
mean, I give it up to them, but you're right. Like they needed to anticipate this a little bit more, especially when they knew that the Asian actress from the trilogy that we had earlier, the last couple years, we knew what she had to go through, and she actually got off of social media. She deactivated her social media and has never returned, and
Wow.
that's how hurtful it was for her.
Mhm.
But you know, it's so crazy. Like that's one reason why I'm telling you, Christy, you have to watch this series because there are so many parallels, political parallels that are
Mhm.
happening in this series that are happening in real life, and we're so intrigued by it all. I don't know if any of you have been watching, but like they literally are having these January 6th hearings, and the
Yeah.
things that are coming out that
On
happened at
right
the
there.
insurrection. I know it's on right now, and I'm like getting alerts, and I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to do a show just unpacking all of that and that corruption and just unpacking it all. But Obi-Wan was such a fun show to watch. If you haven't watched it, you gotta go watch it. There's so many things. We took a semi deep dive. I think you could still watch it and not. There's so many other things that are going to happen in the
Because there's
series.
so much.
Yeah,
So
and
much to take in.
it ends, and you know that the next series is gonna. This series was centered around Leia. The next series will be centered around Luke, and I'm
Mm.
just excited. I'm super excited. I love what they're doing with this series.
Well, listen, I did watch the first one, and then I had to do some. I after I watched the first one, I was like, okay, I got to find somewhere where somebody's unpacking this thing, and let me find some stuff. So
We'll
one
send
of
you
the
some
things.
YouTube links.
Yeah, okay. No, I found me I subscribed to a channel. I found, and they find all the, you know, all the things you missed. I mean, from
The Easter eggs, yeah.
right, the Easter eggs from the supposed cameo by Mark Hamill, that they zoomed in. They're like, hey, listen, we're not going to start anything with this, but we think this is him, you know. But one of the things when you talk about, again, art imitates life, imitates art. That's what I say, because I extend it. It's a cycle.
Totally.
And so one thing I thought was fascinating, and then I'm going to tie this into the whole just advocacy, which is the word of the day today. When you look at the scene where they're having the dinner thing, or oh god, I just can't, it's escaping me because it's so much to process. But the one man shows up and he's talking and he's like, I'm not here to fight in slavery today. I'm not, you know. And of course, Jimmy Schmidt's character is right there, and he's just like, but
Oh, when they're at the big party and he's
that's a
Jimmy
big
Schmidt's.
party.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, I think about that moment in relation to everything else. When you're throwing these parties and people are just literally claiming titles, and there's too much fun surrounding real pain and oppression and struggle. And so again, damn the parties, damn the whatever, y'all are just having a good time because the wealthy can do that, right? In the midst of whatever's going on. And so it's no different than on January 6th when they're at the White House. You know, it's just a mess at the White House, and then the riots and all of that crap that went down. And it's just like, but they're over here still kicking it. Like, I don't understand. And of course, Crazy is not doing anything, but you know, well, now we learn he was choking out Secret Service agents and trying to steal limousines so he could go down to the riot. But when you think of all of that, and then I think about the struggle with Moses Ingram and how she's having to deal with all of this backlash. Again, the bigger point is I do appreciate that finally people are, not finally, it didn't take them too long, but people are speaking up and speaking on her behalf, those in power, those in the movie houses. and production companies and all of that. I think it's that preemptive advocacy that would make a huge difference. But again, it just goes to show, you know, we are the bottom rung. Black women are the bottom rung on the ladder. And it is, I've seen too much of it. And it's just like, I need somebody to go ahead of me, clear the foolishness. And then I can still address if I feel like it or not. But to be compelled and to be sucked into that all the time, and then maybe somebody steps up in allyship. Allyship is cool, but advocacy is where it's at. So
yeah.
But we got her.
Amen.
We got you. We love you.
I know. We, like Hilton said, if she wouldn't have been in this series, she was such a pivotal part of this series. I don't know that I would have liked it as much. It was her performance. It was just the complexities of her character. It was a lot of things that she really brought to the table. And I can't wait to see what happens, you know.
More.
Well, you know what's really funny is, just on a lighter note, is that I got to explain to my Muggle friends and family who is at my bar. Can y'all see him? Can you see the Grand Inquisitor?
Oh
yes!
Yeah, the Grand Inquisitor is at my bar serving drinks. You're like, who is that guy? He's not in Star Wars. Like, well, yeah, he is Star Wars Rebels and, you know, the Clone Wars and everything. There's a whole other thing. And then to see him come live on the screen, and people like, oh, that guy looks like your guy at the bar. I'm like, that's exactly who it is. That's the guy. Got his flavor and everything. So, you know, it's nice to see one of my little action figures getting some justification, because people, you know, they think I'm a little, you know, Star Wars weird, and now I get to bring in full historical. So good for him. Hey, good for him. That's a good guy. I like him.
Yes, I love how you have to explain to your Muggle friends.
You brought us the Gumby voice. That was his
He's a good guy. He's a good guy. You know, everybody, you got to get to know him. That's all I'm saying. You know, he's kill a couple Jedi here, kill a couple Jedi there. But hey, you know, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
What you gotta do? You know,
on that note, I know what you gotta do. You guys have to continue to watch the BOP. We are so happy to be back. We've got more great shows coming for you. This is technically kind of like our season 2. We are working super hard to bring you some really cool content. But until next time, you guys subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our social media, buy your tickets to BLERDCon, and we love you. Bye, everybody.
Hey, there it is. The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens.
Put that light on me. That is dope.
That's good, girl. You need to have that on
grocery
just
store with that now. Y'all done messed up.
See, don't know how to act. Bye, guys.
I guess I put my hand on it.
Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode of The BOP, the BLERD official podcast.